Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Liu Xiliang. I come from China University of Petroleum, Beijing. The title of my speech is CP Catalysts of Fuels in Cross-Scale Unconventional Reservoir based on different CO2 miscibility degree. My speech focuses 4 aspects. As we know, CCUS is the best way to ensure national carbon emission peak carbon neutrality strategy of China. Hence, CO2 flooding can enhance oil recovery and achieve long-term storage of carbon emission. However, there are 3 problems of CO2 flooding implement. The first one is MIP should not be the only criterion of CO2 flooding. Thomas pointed out that many successful CO2 flooding were not strictly miscible flooding, which should be considered as near miscible flooding. Compared with miscible flooding, near miscible flooding have many advantages. The second problem is the power scale effect is ignored in the CO2 seepage capacity study. Traditional theory cannot explain the seepage characters of CO2 flooding at micro nano pore scale. Threshold pressure gradient and the threshold sensitivity is obvious in the tight and shale oil reservoir. So the effect of pore scale on seepage characters of CO2 flooding need to be studied urgently. This is a summary of CO2 seepage capacity study based on the TPG. In this work, the field sample was modified by CO2 and the live oil system. And the reservoir types have 3 types in this work, including low permeability, ultra low permeability, and tight reservoirs. Besides, the stress sensitivity is also considered in this work. The third problem is the effect of pressure distribution on miscibility. It's a dynamic process. As we know, the pressure distribution has a significant impact on the CO2 and the crude oil miscibility. So it can be speculated there is no straight boundary between miscible and the immiscible zone and the reservoir conditions. The next section is experimental section. The seepage capacity of CO2 and live crude oil in low permeability, ultra low permeability, and tight reservoirs were studied by relative permeability, threshold pressure gradient, and different kinds of CO2 flooding tests. The first thing is to determine miscible degree and the reservoir conditions. As the result showed, the formation pressure is in the near miscible flooding region and the reservoir conditions, which based on the miscibility emission method has published in GPSE. Then we studied the seepage characters of multiple miscible types. We compared near miscible and immiscible flooding characters based on 1 meter natural course. The results showed the oil recovery of near miscible flooding is 5% higher than that of immiscible CO2 flooding. After gas breakthrough, the recovery rate of near miscible flooding is 3 times higher than that of immiscible flooding. The relative permeability of CO2 near miscible flooding is higher than that of immiscible flooding, indicating stronger seepage capacity. So it can be speculated the strong dissolution and the different effects between CO2 and crude oil leads to the oil recovery differences between near-miscible and immiscible flooding. Then we compared near-miscible flooding with miscible flooding based on 20 meters slim tube. The result showed before gas breakthrough, miscible flooding achieves 6% higher oil recovery than near-miscible flooding, but breakthrough time of near-miscible flooding is earlier. Due to insufficient contact in near-miscible flooding, CO2 accumulates in the displacement front, and weak effects of light hydrocarbon extraction and mass transfer rate trigger the lower oil recovery. Relative probability curve shows the CO2 sweep efficiency is improved. So near-miscible flooding increases CO2 injection region, which is also cheaper technology. Then we studied the distribution of phase zones during supercritical CO2 injection. Based on the characters of pressure distribution between injection well and the production wells and the migration of CO2 fount, reservoir fields can be divided into 4 phase zones. As for original oil phase zone, the seepage capacity of reservoir fields is mainly controlled by pore scale effect. As for displacement fount zone, little CO2 dissolves into crude oil, reducing oil viscosity. As for miscible zone, the CO2 and the crude oil complex multiple contact and the interfacial tension disperse. As for residual oil phase zone, the effects of CO2 diffusion and extraction are main mechanisms. Then we studied the pore effect on the seepage capacity of reservoir fields. As the result showed, the TPG increases significantly when the permeability is lower than 5. Besides, CO2 injection improves seepage capacity of reservoir fields. Sorted by seepage capacity is residual oil phase zone, miscible zone, displacement zone, and the original oil phase zone. The seepage resistance increases especially when the mobility is lower than 8.23. So what's the effect of contact time on near-miscible flooding? As the result showed, the oil recovery of CO2 SAG flooding is over higher than that of simultaneous CO2 flooding, and the breakthrough time is late. It can be speculated the SAG flooding enhances the CO2 diffusion and slow down gas channeling in dominant channels, which enhance mass transfer of commons and expansion of crude oil. So we can get conclusion as follows. Compared with immiscible flooding, near-miscible flooding has better seepage capacity and oil recovery. Compared with miscible flooding, the decreases of CO2 permeability in near-miscible flooding process is beneficial to improve sweep efficiency, resulting in similar oil recovery. Due to the pressure difference between injection and the production wells in unconventional reservoirs, the dynamic migration of CO2 and crude oil will produce 4 phase zones, namely original oil phase zone, displacement front phase zone, miscible zone, and the residual oil phase zone. The third one, Post-skill effect can reduce the seepage capacity of unconventional reservoir fields. CO2 injection can significantly improve the seepage capacity when the mobility is less than 8.23. The last one, prolonged contact time between CO2 and crude oil can enhance oil recovery. The opposite soaking measure can improve the development effect of crude oil in unconventional reservoirs. This research is completed based on the National Natural Science Foundation of China. Thanks for your precious time. Any suggestions will be highly appreciated. That's all. Thank you.